Well, good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRN AM for Monday, June 5th, 2023. And our top story today, food prices continue to decline, but some food prices are still high. And joining me now to discuss this and a lot more, Dave Anderson is an economist with Texas A&M University. Dave, it's great to see you again. Thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Hey, glad to be with you.
And the kids are out, right? College kids have graduated. They're back home doing their internships, right?
Yeah, that's right. School's out. We had graduation about a couple of weeks ago, and I think summer school's just getting started. So we had a nice couple of weeks here with a lot less traffic.
Yeah, school. What's the song? School's out for summer. So
yeah, that's right.
That's I don't know. I'm dating myself, but I think that's from like the 80s. All right, Dave. In this segment, I want to check in with you on, let's start with inflation, and then I want you to tell us how we're doing in terms of food inflation. So let's start overall with CPI. How are we doing as a country? And then let's just talk about food inflation.
Sure, that sounds good. So really, the CPI report comes out every month, and in some ways it's backward looking, right? So it comes out in 1 month, and we're looking at the last month when we have the full data. And so far we continue to see prices rise. Although, I think it's more interesting to dig into the numbers a little more. So, we certainly have falling fuel prices, yet we have rising other prices, and so it's, I think you can kind of glean a lot about different things and how it affects different people by looking at the different kind of components. I spend more of my time, I think, as you know, on kind of the food side of things, the meat side of things, particularly, and meat's sort of a mixed bag. We actually had in the last report rising retail beef prices, and that's, not a real surprise. If we looked at the live animal market, the cattle that are going from a feedlot to a meat packer, we actually had 3 weeks in a row of record high prices for live animals in April and May. We've got rising prices because we have tighter supplies. We're producing less beef than we did a year ago. So we got rising prices on that front.
Yeah, and Dave, last time I recall talking to you, fertilizer. There's a lot of things that go into beef production. It's not just the animal itself. You got to feed it. There's a war in Ukraine that has had an impact, and it's continued on. I think it's over a year now. All of that has an impact on the cost we're paying, the price we're paying for beef.
It sure does. And feed, really, we think of corn, soybean meal, hay, distiller's grains, which is a byproduct of ethanol. When we pull the energy out of corn to make ethanol, what's left is a high protein livestock feed. And so we feed a lot of that to cattle and hogs, and really in producing meat. And we've had very high feed costs over the last several years. And we've actually got feed costs coming down. Corn prices are lower. They're quite a bit lower than a year ago. That's the biggest cost component. Once you have that animal produced and you're feeding it to grow it to its finished weight. And so we've got some lower feed costs. That's helping the production side of things. But still, driving cattle numbers is a drought. We've had a drought in the U.S. We've had high costs, feed being part of that. That led ranchers to sell off some of their herds, reduce the number of cows, and now we're seeing less beef production because of that multi-year reduction in the cow herd.
Yeah, I'd say we're trying to get John Dutton on from Yellowstone, but he just will not return our phone calls to talk about how it's impacting his ranch up in Montana. Dave, I'm joking. We have no relationship with Kevin Costner at all. He's certainly welcome to come on. It's one of my favorite shows. David, let's talk about eggs. That's really a big part of was a big part of the American diet. Egg prices coming down. I mean, look, the restaurant that I live near that I used to go to get my egg whites, they're no longer selling egg whites. Apparently, it's hard to get egg whites. I didn't even know that. But where are we with egg prices? That's a good protein source. It's a lean protein source.
It sure is. And egg prices, I think, when we talk about beef going up, egg prices are coming down and coming down drastically. If we look at the CPI over the last several months, egg prices hit their record high back in January. They've been coming down since then. I expect when the next CPI comes out, we're going to see even lower egg prices. We had wholesale. This was wholesale a week ago for eggs, and for a dozen eggs were 85 cents a dozen. Gosh, we were talking wholesale prices back at the end of December, January, over $5. So Amazing. That's at wholesale. So we had retail prices almost $5 in January. They've been coming down. Wholesale prices are lower. And there's really two things happening. Both are, this is a market for eggs. We have producers supplying eggs. We got consumers demanding eggs. And what's going on is that those high prices are causing producers to increase production. We've been very lucky not to have more high pathogenic avian influenza hit more of our egg-laying flocks of chickens. So production's coming up. We're still not back to where we were prior to avian influenza, but production's increasing. And I think high prices have taken its toll on us consumers in terms of buying eggs. We're not buying as many eggs, which causes prices to come down also. So we got this combination of the number of eggs people buy because of high prices and increasing production, and we've got falling prices.
Dave, I want to pick up on that. So I want to talk about the consumer, and then when we come back from commercial break, let's talk about farmers. But in terms of the consumer, you said, when we first started talking with you, I think last year, as you said, egg prices through the roof, over $5 for a dozen. That's a lot of money to spend for eggs. But how are consumers adjusting their behavior? You said that they maybe are not buying as many eggs, but what about in some of the other the staples? The milk, the bread. To go back to kind of stereotypes. How are consumers adjusting to these high prices in food, but also high prices in gas and other important staples?
As an economist, I would say, price is a market signal. When price goes up, we buy less. That's just part of demand. And so that's one thing we do is we buy less. But we have some interesting things, I think, in the marketplace that are sort of hard to and sometimes rationalize exactly. We've got some very high retail prices for meat, whether we're talking beef, pork, or chicken, that we've got some, in some cases, much lower prices at wholesale for pork, for instance, yet we continue to have very high retail prices. Consumers apparently are continuing to buy. There's not a huge amount of evidence yet that folks are switching around what they buy, that they're switching between from more expensive beef to cheaper chicken. Folks continue to buy, and that's one of the things I think supporting higher retail prices, even though the underlying wholesale market is lower for some of those meat items.
David, as I said, I need to take a very quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the impact of farmers and some of the research Dave is working on when it comes to livestock. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms, especially for the smaller businesses? I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
Over the last 50 years, Mission Square Retirement has helped over 3 million public service employees retire well.
298 Washington.
298.
After 25 years of service, this will be my last radio transmission with Washington Fire Department. To my department, it has been an honor to serve this community alongside each of you. Words cannot express how much this life has meant to me. To the community of Washington, I am forever altered by our relationships. Whether it was coaching Little League or putting out one of your creative fireworks displays. Thank you, and please stay safe.
Lieutenant James Campbell, you have led our fire department with grace, grit, and courage. The department and the entire community wish you a healthy and happy retirement.
298 off the air at 17:02.
While their service to their community must one day come to an end, our mission to serve them does not. We're there with them, to and through retirement. Mission Square Retirement. Invest in a shared sense of service.
Tax audits, tax liens, wage garnishments.
Every day we hear stories like this about good folks who are simply struggling to pay their bills. Each of them are living a frightening IRS tax nightmare, and they are afraid it will destroy their lives.
I'm a divorced single mom, and my ex-husband left me and the kids with a lot of unpaid bills, including unpaid taxes. I was really starting to show my stress on my kids because the IRS had sent me a letter demanding a huge payment from me. I couldn't afford it. So then the IRS was threatening to garnish my wages. I'm already living paycheck to paycheck. That would have put me over the edge financially.
It truly seemed hopeless, but then a friend at work told her to call the tax relief line.
The people at the tax relief line, they told me about something called innocent spouse relief. They worked it out so that all of the taxes from my ex are not my problem. I don't know how that works, and I don't care. All I care about is that I don't owe the IRS a dime, and they are not going to take my paycheck.
Even if it seems hopeless, you should call the number on your screen right now. There is absolutely no cost for the call or the consultation. You are under no obligation. If you are worried that the IRS could garnish your wages, seize your assets, even take your home, call us right now. The Tax Relief Line is here to help you. Now you have a knowledgeable, professional team of tax experts that are ready to negotiate with the IRS and fight for you to save you money. The Tax Relief Line's professionals have successfully negotiated thousands of cases, reducing and sometimes even eliminating the tax debt for their clients. It's very easy to get started. Simply call the number on your screen right now. You don't have to live in fear anymore. The call and the consultation are free.
Well, Dave, thanks so much for staying with us this morning. Really appreciate you hanging around for segment number 2. Dave, so just to pick up the conversation, we talked about consumers, we talked about inflation. How are farmers doing?
Well, it's sort of, as oftentimes it depends on what exactly a particular farmer's growing. We've got falling prices for corn, lower soybean prices. And so we certainly have a lot of farmers, particularly in the corn belt of the U.S., the Midwest, that grow a lot of corn. And so we're seeing lower prices there. We've had some very high calf and cattle prices. So cattle ranchers are getting some relief there in terms of higher prices, really related to declining herd numbers. We've got some very low prices for hogs. That's really putting a lot of stress kind of on pork production side, the hog side of agriculture. We just seem to have very low prices. And I think a lot of us who spend time looking at those markets expect producers to reduce the size of their herds, and we're going to cut production because of that lack of profits. And so, there's one meat side, the hog side, that's having a pretty rough time. Yet we have the cattle side that is certainly doing better. I think an area where we'll hear more about in coming months, struggling also, is the dairy side. We have falling milk prices. We have production that's a little more than it was a year ago, yet we have falling prices really for all those dairy items at the prices that farmers receive. And so I think that's an area where we'll hear about some more financial stress in coming months.
Dave, you do a lot of research. The semester's over. You're done teaching, but you do a lot of research. What's top of mind for the research that you're producing? Is it more livestock-related research, or is it in actual food production?
I do more livestock in markets, government policy. The class I teach is a graduate course on typically master's students on government policies in agriculture. So we talk about traditional farm programs. We do trade policy. We'll kind of hit some hot topics, kind of whatever I try to tailor some of it to what the students are interested in that semester, and stuff that are hot topics at the time. Certainly a couple of years ago, we did more on trade disputes with China, tariffs and retaliatory tariffs. So we kind of hit a wide variety of things in that graduate course. It's actually a lot of fun to teach. The graduate students are a little more motivated sometimes, and it's a lot of fun. You can really engage with them. On the research front, I have a lot of different things going on. Most of my work is what I would call very applied. I tend to work on things that farmers and ranchers ask. What are they interested in? And so lately, some of this work deals with sort of prices. If we looked at price relationships for cattle prices and calf prices, as those prices are going up, if we can get to a time period with rainfall and get out of this drought, then ranchers look to start rebuilding herds. And to do that, I've got to go buy some more cows, or I have to hold back some of my young female animals, the heifers, to grow into my own cows. And so we've got this investment strategy, right? Buying new cows and bringing them into my herd based on, hopefully that they're going to be profitable over their lifespan and what the path of prices look like, versus kind of growing from within, or retaining that capital, foregoing selling that calf at a really high price, and keeping her so that she's going to produce more calves in the future. So some of my work is, on those really retention and expansion strategies, and how different strategies look sort of financially for a rancher.
Yeah, not only for a rancher, but also look to bring down prices. I guess if you can produce more livestock, you can produce more food. Ultimately, that serves the greater good in terms of bringing down prices. Dave, we're going to have to leave it there. Great to see you as always. Thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to having you back on the program again.
Hey, thanks. Soon. This is fun. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
And that wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to? Drop us a line, and don't forget, for all the latest curated news and lifestyle, wellness, finance, tech, so much more, and all in one place, check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. Want to search our archives, check out our latest content? We'll visit our website, and of course, all of our streaming partners. We're back again tomorrow for another edition of BRN AM. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes. Now is your opportunity to co-create content around any topic on the first lifestyle and wellness network. Reach a global audience through our platform and co-own exclusive branded content. All of our programs are available on demand and also as audio-only podcasts, so you can take us on the go. Broadcast Retirement Network, available anytime, anywhere, and on any device.